Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Brian's Horror Corner, and welcome to this horror movie review for day 11 of my 31 Days of Halloween Horror series for October here. Sorry about the light, guys. It's that time of the day again where the sun likes to mock me, but we'll get through it. I'll do that if I have to. But um, anyway, yeah, today we're going to take a look at a very recent horror slash thriller movie, more of a thriller movie from 2020. And that movie is The Invisible Man with Elizabeth Moss, I believe it is. Yeah. Um, so this is a film that, as you can see, I have it on Blu-ray, DVD, and HD digital code here. But this is a film that I bought a while ago and had heard good things about it, but hadn't gotten the chance to check it out yet. So, um, was excited to add it to this 31 Days of Halloween horror series. So yeah, let's just go ahead and get into The Invisible Man. I know there was one, the original one came out in 1933. I believe it was in the 30s as part of the Universal Monster movies. I hadn't seen that one. Then you've had other versions like Hollow Man with Kevin Bacon from, I believe it was in the early 2000s. That one I have seen and liked it. So I knew a little bit about this one, but not too much. So, The Invisible Man is a 2020 science fiction horror film written and directed by Lee Winnell, inspired by H.G. Wells' novel of the same name. It stars Elizabeth Moss as a woman who believes she is being stalked and gaslit by her seemingly deceased ex boyfriend after he acquires the ability to become invisible. So it's a fairly straightforward premise there. So basically, the film opens Cecilia Cass is trapped in a violent and controlling relationship with wealthy optics engineer and his Adrian Griffin businessman Adrian Griffin, not another person. One night, Cecilia drugs Adrian with her di- diazepam and escapes his highly secured house with the assistance of her younger sister, Emily. Cecilia hides out in the home of her childhood friend, Detective James Lanier, and his teenage daughter, Sydney. 2 weeks after Cecilia's escape, Adrian seemingly commits suicide and leaves her $5 million. His lawyer brother, Tom, handles the arrangements. Cecilia suspects another presence in the house after several strange events, but James assures her she is just traumatized and paranoid. During a job interview, she finds her work portfolio's contents removed, then faints. The doctor says high levels of di- diaz- diazepam were found in her system. In her bathroom, she finds the same bottle of bloody diazepam in which she drugged Adrian during her escape. So that's the setup and the premise, the beginning of the movie, The Invisible Man from 2020. As far as the cast goes, of course, we have Elizabeth Moss as Cecilia C. Cass as an architect. Oliver Jackson Cohen as Adrian Griffin, a scientist specializing in optics. Aldous Hodge as James Lanier, a San Francisco police detective. Storm Reed as Sydney Sid Lanier, James' teenage daughter, Harriet Dyer as Emily M. Cass, Cecilia's younger sister, and Michael Dorman as Tom Griffin, Adrian's older brother and lawyer. So, yeah, that's the setup, the premise, and the cast for the 2020 The Invisible Man. Overall, I enjoyed this movie. I view it much more as a thriller, like a mystery thriller, than a horror movie. I understand they consider it a horror movie on the science fiction aspect of it, just like the original, the ability to use some kind of technology to make a person invisible, in which that person then torments and terrifies another person. So that's where the science fiction horror film comes from. But I would consider this much more of a thriller movie, and it that doesn't mean it's bad. It's actually a pretty effective thriller movie, in my opinion. So let's just go ahead and get into the pros and cons, the things that I liked about the movie first. Um, the first 10 minutes or so, the movie's really good. It sets up a compelling and suspenseful story. You kind of get a sense of what this movie's going to be right off the bat. Great sound design in the first 10 minutes, so there's not a lot of noise or anything, which adds to the tension, which it also has, and then the visuals as well of this beautiful lake home, this secured home on the ocean, and just some of the visual cues were given. Basically, I was engaged right from the start because of this first 10 minutes. And I think it really does a good job of getting the viewer interested into this, what's going on here and where it goes from there. So that's the first thing that stood out to me. Obviously, you got to talk about the performance of Elizabeth Moss, most notably. It's a very good performance. She exhibits a wide range of emotions through awesome facial expressions. She really has good facial expression acting ability, but you don't often see by a lot of actors or actresses. Really, throughout the movie, she does this, and it really makes her portrayal really believable and a very strong performance. Of course, she basically has to carry the movie. Well, she does carry the movie as the main character. The side characters are fairly decent. Nobody's really great other than her, but nobody's terrible. They all do a serviceable job, in my opinion. But she's definitely the standout. Um, her strong lead performance does a good job of bringing the audience along for this very suspenseful ride. With her performance as well. Very well directed movie by Lee Winnell. Obviously, Lee Winnell's been involved with movies like Saw and working with James Wan a lot. I believe he directed. There's another movie I know he directed a few years ago. I haven't seen it. It was mentioned, and the name escapes me. But you can comment down below if you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, Lee Winnell's got a lot of talent in the horror genre. He executed a pretty good story and did some really awesome things, especially as it relates to camera work and camera tricks, to kind of fool the viewer, get the viewer on the edge of their seat, which I thought was very effective. Um, it just adds to the tension and the suspense within the movie, especially in the first couple of acts when Elizabeth Moss's character Cecilia is by herself a lot in this house, and she knows there's something weird going on, and that there might be somebody else there, kind of thing. And that's really where he's at his best with that, I would say, and where the movie's really at its best in terms of suspense. You have a really good suspenseful score and musical cues used throughout the movie that definitely add to that whole thriller vibe and atmosphere. Thought it was very effective. It adds a lot of effective tension. You have solid cinematography throughout the movie that makes for an easy watch. The movie's pretty well paced, despite the fact that it's over 2 hours. I never was really bored by it. I mean, sure, there's a couple scenes here or there they could have shortened up or edited a little bit more, whatever. But for the most part, for a horror movie that's over 2 hours, which typically that's a little bit longer than I like in my horror movies, but when it comes to like a mystery suspense thriller, I'm willing to stay there as long as I feel like I'm in good hands with the director, the performances, and the story. And I was in this movie. So I thought it was pretty well paced, despite the fact that it is a longer movie. There's just really no wasted space or time. Every scene in this movie, for the most part, exists for a reason. It has a purpose. Didn't drag for me anyway. I really think the first two acts of this movie are the most effective. They're the most intense. They're clever. They're creepy. Basically, as the antagonist character in this movie messes with Cecilia, pushing her to appear crazy to all the other characters that are around her in this movie. So they really do a good job of that. And then also bringing up that whole question, is this something that's all in her head kind of thing? Um, or is this really going on kind of thing. That's kind of how the other characters are viewing her, and with good reason, through her through the way Lee Winnell directs the movie, as well as Elizabeth Moss's performance, as I talked about before. They really do a good job with that. I think the most effective scene, the scene that I didn't see coming, is the restaurant scene midway through the movie. If you know, you know. I'm not going to give it away, but something happens there that was pretty like takes you aback quite a bit, and it's kind of shocking. Um, Not just in terms of what happens, but the reactions of the character, especially Elizabeth Moss. And then the movie just kind of goes into kind of a dreary area from there. Um, but yeah, those are my pros for The Invisible Man. There's a lot to like in this movie. As far as cons go, there's not a lot. I do have a few. There are some plot holes that other people have mentioned, some plot contrivances and conveniences to move the plot along. That's just, you have to suspend disbelief, or it asks you to suspend disbelief a little bit. AKA the Invisible Man showing up at one location right after being at another. Some of the timing of that is a little bit like, that doesn't seem that doesn't seem time logical, basically, how quickly he moves from one place to another. Again, he's invisible, so they don't have to show him moving. I suppose he could be right on the antagonist or protagonist's ass, but I don't know. Some of that stuff just kind of made me question um, the protagonist as well, the character. I'm not going to give it away, but as smart as he does some really dumb things, some lazy character decisions or character intelligence, I should say, considering what he accomplishes by becoming an invisible man per se. I'm not going to say that's what happens for sure. The scientific breakthrough that he has. Why does he make such lazy and silly decisions in terms of not only leaving things out that are relatively can kind of give himself away to other characters. He also some of the access codes that another character or two are able to stumble upon pretty easily. You would think he'd do a better job with changing those type of things, especially given what this character might or might not be doing throughout the course of the movie. So, as I said, leaving rather important items out and open, and then also carrying a cell phone with them. I don't want to give too much away, but basically when you assume that there's some kind of invisible man alone with her, all of a sudden a cell phone randomly shows up. Why would you need a cell phone if you're invisible? That just doesn't make any sense. So there's some, as I said, there's some story plot convenience. There's some particular character conveniences in this movie that do make you question a little bit. And then also I have to mention this is more of a personal thing, but the character of the lawyer brother was pretty obvious to me what his role was in this. And as a result, the big twist, or one of the big twists, I guess, later in the movie, towards the end, didn't work quite as well for me because, to me, the first time this character was introduced, it was pretty obvious what his intentions or involvement was in the overall story. So I don't know if other people felt the same way, but that's definitely something that stuck out to me. I thought it was obvious and predictable pretty early on in the movie, and the twist wasn't as effective to me towards the end for that reason. Also, one character I wasn't a huge fan of was Emily, her younger sister. And again, this is more of a personal thing. Actually, I didn't mean to say the other one was a personal thing, although it kind of was because if you didn't catch on as quickly as I do, I'm not saying you were wrong or anything, but this is more of a personal one. I just wasn't a fan of the Emily character, especially at the beginning when she's picking Cecilia up in the car and something happens related to her ex-boyfriend that he stumbles upon her and he's like breaking the window and Emily's like asking what's going on. It's like, can't you see what's going on? You're sitting right there. Drive the fucking car. That was a big one. And then also throughout the course of the movie, she just sort of has that, I don't know. She just kind of comes across as kind of an annoying character to me, trying to be all tough and badass. Oh, I could take this well trained cop any day of the week, and it's kind of like, yeah, I'm sure you could. Okay, let's focus on that in this movie. I don't know. Again, I realize that's a personal thing. I'm sure the actress is a lovely young lady, and it's nothing against her, but it was really more the character, the way it was written. But yeah, that's what I got, guys. So overall, I really enjoyed this as a horror movie, I'd give it a lower grade, but I'm going to call this what it is for me, a thriller mystery movie. And for that, I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. I think it's very effective for what it is. Sort of taking that premise of the original Invisible Man story from the 1930s and definitely bringing it up to a modern take on it as it has to do with being in an abusive relationship and things of that nature. I thought they did a pretty effective job for the most part, with a really strong performance by Elizabeth Moss and great direction and storytelling with Lee Winnell. So 8.5 out of 10 for The Invisible Man from 2020 as a thriller mystery movie. Um, for my day 11 of my 31 Days of Halloween horror series. So I hope you enjoyed this review. Comment down below what you guys think of The Invisible Man from 2020. Do you like it more than I do, less than I do, about the same? Why not? Please hit the like button and the little notification bell down below so you don't miss any of my upcoming reviews for this series. And please subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of my great horror content coming out the rest of the year and beyond. So hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching. Happy October. Hope it's going well for you. Stay scared. Bye.